Okay, well, welcome to today. Breaking news just last night, or really this time yesterday ish, an undercover video regarding late term abortions in Canada was released by the nonprofit organization Right Now. And so, in a moment, I'm going to bring up the woman who was the undercover reporter. And we've also got Jonathan Van Maren with us to weigh in about this. But I wanted to say that the reason I wanted to take some time to do this interview today is because when I am out traveling, this is one of the issues, the issue of the fact that Canada is one of the only Western nations that has no laws, no restrictions on abortion right up until full term. Of course, we had the legislation in New York that was passed over the last few years. So New York allows full term abortions, but Canada being the only Western nation that from coast to coast, from boundary line to boundary line, allows full term abortion. And for years, we have heard our leaders say it does not happen. So I'm going to bring up my guests today. Thank you so much, Jonathan and Alyssa, for being with me. Let's talk about what just happened here. So you went undercover. You were how pregnant were you? How far along in your?
Well, it was over a 4-week period. So I started when I was 20 weeks pregnant and ended when I was 24 weeks.
Okay. And you visited abortion clinics all across Canada. Talk to us about the inception of this idea. I know we've seen similar types of journalism happening in the United States. What sort of made you do this? And why did you hold on to the footage for so long? And that's another question.
Yeah, well, I think the main reason why I wanted to do it was just to combat that disinformation out there that we're constantly being told by politicians, by the media, by abortion advocates that late term abortions just don't happen, that it's regulated. Anytime we need a law or other pro life organizations put up billboards that say Canada has no abortion law, they're taken down because it's misinformation, because abortion is regulated in Canada. And then they go through the different regulations in the different provinces. And us working in the pro-life movement, we know that's just not the case. And instead of us kind of talking at the wall saying that's not the case, I actually wanted to prove it right from the horse's mouth. And that meant going undercover, doing this sort of investigative journalism and hearing from the abortionists how easy it was to get a late-term abortion in the different provinces and how exactly they go about advising women to do that. It did take 2 years to come out because I, of course, had to give birth shortly after and, take care of that was my third child. I now have four children, but kind of get my work life balance back after that. And then nominations were happening for the stat federal election. So we just dove right into that. And then by the time the preparation for the videos and the kind of political landscape had died down, it was the right time to release the videos, which is why we're here today.
And there's so much I want to encourage people. I'm actually going to put up on this on the screen right here. If I can hit the right button. Yeah, there you go. So this is without the audio. This is basically footage from the video that you just released. And there's so much in this that hit me. So, but before I start to talk, Jonathan, why don't you weigh in here? What was your impression when you saw the footage that Alyssa got?
I think there's multiple things that are really significant about this video and the whole project. But the thing that I would really emphasize is that never before in Canada have we seen a pro-life activist actually take on the task of being an undercover journalist, being an undercover investigator, and then directly rebutting with video evidence, obtained, I think, very brilliantly. That rebuts a claim consistently made by Canada's leading abortion advocacy groups, by progressive politicians, and then more or less accepted by politicians on both sides of the aisle. So I think this story is significant not just because of what Alyssa and Right Now found and are now beginning to expose in one of three videos, but also the fact that this is something the mainstream media should have actually done. And I would go so far as to say as well that when I look at the alternative media landscape, this is the kind of journalism that conservatives, that pro-lifers, that social conservatives should be doing. Rather than accepting narratives, we should be going undercover. We should be attempting to debunk these. And so I think this project is really incredible. I think both the method of the project and what Alyssa found is pretty incredible.
And obviously, Alyssa, before you did this, you checked with lawyers, you vetted the laws to make sure that you weren't breaking the law. Because I think that's probably why citizen journalism hasn't happened. And there's a lot of people just feel like, okay, How do I navigate this? Am I going to get sued? Like, what can I do? What can't I do? Talk to that point, Alyssa, and how you navigated that.
Yeah, I mean there are a lot of protections for investigative journalism and specifically undercover journalism. And I was just sort of doing an extension of what the CBC did a few years ago when they went undercover in ultrasound clinics and revealed that gender selective abortions were happening. They were actually the people who broke the news. It was a woman named Diana Swain, I believe, and she posted and showed the video footage on the National, on CBC's The National. So this is sort of just an extension of that to show that this is happening, and to combat that misinformation. Yes, of course, we did consult with a legal team, and there were definitely certain risks to it, but the risks did not outweigh the benefits in this situation. And it was really important for the pro-life movement, I think, to have this information, for the general public to have this information. And hopefully, we can use it to combat a lot of what the government is telling us. I mean, even on Canada.ca, the government website, when it comes to abortion, it says that, late-term abortions don't happen unless it's for serious medical conditions. So to combat that, to perhaps send a legal letter to them to make sure that they are no longer spreading that disinformation. And anytime the media is dealing with this topic, to ensure that they're not just, like Jonathan said, accepting the narrative from abortion advocates, and instead accepting the actual facts from abortionists.
And so what do you think the impact of this video is going to be? Jonathan, why don't you weigh in on that? And Alyssa, I'd love to hear what you hope the impact will be.
I think there's two things I would highlight. The first is that this video evidence is just evidence that exists now for the pro-life movement to use. And so there's, the initial launch of the videos. Right now, the videos are obviously news, but the videos, from the perspective of somebody who works full-time in the pro-life movement, are also just a long-term resource that now permanently exists to debunk and rebut one of the most frequently cited disinformation, as Alyssa put it, by those who support abortion. And in addition to that, the resource is also really important because the vast majority of Canadians have no idea that this is possible in Canada. The vast majority of Canadians, by every poll, aren't even aware that there are no limits on abortion in Canada. And I work for the Canadian Centre for Bioethical Reform. We have thousands of conversations door to door and on the street every single year. And I can tell you that one of the things they consistently say when we tell them that there are no legal limits on abortion is that that's not true. And we actually have to Google it. We have to prove it to them. And so these videos are just a valuable long-term resource for the pro-life movement, in addition to there being news now. The thing I would say, the second thing I would note is that I think that right now the videos are in a very interesting spot because on one hand, you have the mainstream press, most of which will probably decline to cover the videos unless they're pushed into doing so, which is why it's so important for pro-life groups to get out there to share these videos, share them on X, share them on Facebook, leave comments, send them to your WhatsApp family chat groups and ask them to do the same, because I've seen this time and time again. The mainstream press will not cover a story if they can get away with not covering it. I remember getting a call from a CBC journalist when the baby body parts scandal broke in the United States. And the journalist said to me, like, this doesn't happen in Canada, does it? And I pointed him to the place on the Abortion Rights Coalition of Canada website explaining that this is a practice that happens in Canada as well. And he says, wow, I'll talk to my editor and I'll call you right back. And of course, I never got a call back because they didn't want to cover the story. So this story is only going to make it into the mainstream press if we push them. And then I would urge pro-lifers, especially who have seen this video and just found it confirming much of what they already know. Some people won't be shocked by what they see because if you're in the trenches, you know this is taking place. To recognize that the vast majority of people in your life and in the country aren't aware of this, and to push it as hard as you can.
Yeah, and I find even the most hardened of pro-choice advocates, when they actually find out that you can abort a baby at 38, 39 weeks, 40 weeks, full term, most pro-abortion activists feel deeply uncomfortable with that. Just so it is important to have the conversation. About the video, somebody might be watching this right now thinking, hey, where can I see this video? Where can I find out about this? Alyssa, shoot that information off right now before we continue our conversation.
Yeah, you can watch the video anywhere on our social media page. It's on YouTube, which is Right Now Canada. It's on our Facebook page, Instagram. It's on our TikTok. It's on Twitter or X, which is all just Right Now HQ or Right Now Canada. So yeah, check it out and like and share. And like Jonathan said, leave a comment. That'll go a long way. It helps put it in people's algorithms that maybe don't want to see it but should see it.
And Jonathan mentioned you have 2 more videos coming out. When are they coming out, and how can people track with you to ensure that they see them?
Yeah, the schedule isn't for sure set. We'll just see kind of where this takes us, but definitely within the next week or so. And if you just follow us on those social media platforms, like I mentioned, then you'll definitely get the release. You can also sign up to our email list, which is they'll be emailed directly to your inbox. And our link is itstartsrightnow.ca.
And the videos that are forthcoming are similar content, or is there some different information that is presented?
Yeah, there's a lot of different information. There's a lot of different angles. There's a lot of different language that's being used. I think each one is very unique and very interesting, but also saying relatively the same thing when it comes to late-term abortion. So definitely not a repeat of the same Toronto one. So it will be interesting to see the reaction there. And hopefully, it does get some traction. And one of the videos even has to do a little bit with the United States. So we'll see how, conservative pundits and pro-lifers in the United States respond to, being directly linked to late-term abortion in Canada.
Wow. Now, a few observations that I had when I reviewed the video yesterday was, number one, the nurse or the intake worker, whoever it was on the video speaking, was very honest about how dangerous the procedure is. And that came across in her various briefing comments. The second thing is she seems very polished. Like, this doesn't seem like a conversation that she's kind of fumbling through, that she's never done before, that she's kind of looking for the right way to say things. Like, it sounds in the video like she's done this many times before. That's at least how it comes across. Can you comment on that, either one of you, and if there was anything else that particularly hit you about the tonality of this footage?
Yeah, I mean, it is very obvious that, she says, sometimes women come here, they haven't decided yet, they decide they don't want to do it, and they're past our limit. We just send them over to the Women's College Hospital. They do it up to 32 weeks, which is 8 months pregnancy. Then when I was talking to the abortionist, she said it might be impossible to find someone to do it at 35, 36 weeks, but she did not say that it was impossible to find it, absolutely impossible to find it. And I mean, in some of my pregnancies, I was induced at 37, 38 weeks. So just like a week or two after when she's saying it might be impossible to get a late-term abortion. So it is absolutely something that they have discussed before. It is a relationship with the hospital that they have when it comes to committing abortions after their limit of 24 weeks and 6 days at the clinic. So that definitely came across, and I don't think that there should be any doubt in people's minds that this is a rare thing.
Jonathan, why don't you weigh in?
Yeah, the language is disturbing, but it's only disturbing if you can visualize what's actually taking place. I do find that people who are so used to the discussion around abortion being sanitized with very sort of formal and medicalized language often don't realize what's happening here. And that's why what I like about what the Right Now Project has done as well is it kind of highlights the fact that babies have been kept alive outside the womb after 21 weeks. So when we're talking about late-term abortion, in many, if not most instances, we're talking about a baby that could survive outside the womb. We are not just talking either about babies who have a condition incompatible with life, as they say in medical jargon, because they're quite willing to facilitate an abortion of a perfectly healthy baby, even if that baby could survive outside the womb, even if there was nothing wrong with that baby. And I think it's worth mentioning that the language they're using, again, disguises what they're doing. Because what they're actually doing to these children is they're, giving them a potassium chloride injection directly to the heart to kill them that way. in more brutal procedures, like where they were done by Dr. Fraser Fellows of London, Ontario. It would involve sort of a lot of dismembering, skull crushing, rotating limbs very carefully out of the womb to ensure the cervix isn't scarred. And so there's so much behind the banal language being used in the video that right now just released. And that's one of the things that was really chilling for me, because sort of crouching behind those sentences and crouching behind that rhetoric is an extraordinarily bloody reality. And we're talking again about a stage in pregnancy where virtually no Canadian would deny that we're talking about a human being. No Canadian would deny that we are talking about a baby. And one bit of evidence for this is the UK earlier this year had a debate about decriminalizing abortion up until birth. And you saw members of the UK House of Lords. You saw members of Parliament. You even saw feminists like Kathleen Stock of Oxford, who writes for Unheard magazine, all saying, okay, it's one thing to have an abortion early on, but it's definitely killing in this instance. You're definitely killing a baby. This is definitely infanticide. And I was counting, even as I was going through my social media, again, members of the House of Lords, MPs from multiple different parties were admitting it's so clearly killing a baby at this stage. And so as somebody who's pro-life, like the two of you, we know that life begins at conception and that abortion is killing and ending a human life at any stage. But what the videos that right now have and the video that they've released reveals to Canadians is that at the point at which virtually everybody agrees we're talking about a human being, we're talking about a baby, something really horrific is going on in Canada, and it's going on routinely, and it's going on for any reason or for no reason at all.
So who pays for this financially?
Yeah, so if you see in the Toronto video, they tell me on the phone that I have to bring exactly $2,137 in cash to the abortion clinic because they don't have a card machine at the clinic. So super sketchy. The clinic was in a super sketchy part of Toronto. So I literally had to carry a wad full of cash as a super pregnant woman through downtown Toronto and hand it over like a drug deal to this abortion clinic. Which is very, very odd. But the only reason why I had to do that is because I am currently living in Alberta. So I don't have OHIP. I am not part of the Ontario Provincial Health Plan. And so I did have to pay out of pocket if I wanted an abortion in Ontario. That being said, the provinces do cover abortions if you're getting them in your province. And I don't want to reveal too much about future videos, but there is an element in an upcoming video that specifically deals with travel and accommodations and healthcare in another country, and that it's completely covered by the government in that respect as well. And that again is coming from the abortion clinic worker. So there is a financial element to it. It's not the reason why I did that, but people should be alarmed, I think, at just the pure fact that I had to bring specific cash to this clinic. They don't have a card machine, and that the government is paying for late-term abortions in other countries.
So what do you hope to accomplish with this, Alyssa? The reason why I wanted to hop on here and feature what you guys just did yesterday and the forthcoming videos is because I know that the people that I intersect with on a regular basis really do care about this issue. A lot of times our leaders will say, well, I never hear from Canadians about this issue, or when I do, it's just the crazies. You know, it's not that normal Canadians don't care about this issue. It's just the crazies. And yet I'm constantly talking with Canadians that are very loving, very kind, very sincere. And it feels like a lot of them have just kind of given up on talking with our leaders about it because they are so dismissed, disregarded, gaslighted, told that they're crazy or whatever. Like they're made to feel like that their view on this issue really is invalid. And I think that's probably where some of the silence comes from and just the fatigue, right, around this. So what do you hope to accomplish? Are you hearing any feedback from offices yet? It's been about 24 hours as of the recording of this interview. Talk to us.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the purpose, like I said, of the campaign was just to combat that disinformation so that abortion can be talked about in a truthful manner. In Canada, the debate is definitely not closed. It comes up every election. It is something that the majority of Canadians are against. Polls consistently show that Canadians are against late term, third trimester abortion. So there is a majority there. If politicians want to do something about that, if there needs to be a public conversation, like Jonathan mentioned earlier, about abortion, to speak about it in a truthful way. I think that can help a lot of women. It can help the conversation in general. And hopefully it will give a lot of courage to elected officials to, do something about this, regardless of, what their leader says, or maybe even some of the opposition says, just because they do have the majority of Canadians on their side, and public policy should reflect public opinion. And so, hopefully that gives them a little bit of a backbone to do a little bit more.
Jonathan, what's your read on this moment as it relates to our leaders?
I wanted to address what I think this moment means for the pro-life movement, because I 100% understand those who look at politics and are growing cynical about politics. And I think that people who are feeling cynical about politics should watch the video that was released by Right Now and recognize that we don't have a right to our cynicism. This isn't about how invigorated we feel about any particular political moment. This is about the fact that there are babies, in some cases viable babies, that are being killed in Canada. It is being done legally, and it is being done with your tax dollars, which means, unfortunately, your government has coerced you to be part of this process. And so I really believe we do not have the right to our cynicism, and we must stay involved. That being said, one of the other things I think that this video series emphasizes is that the pro-life movement in Canada is very vibrant. It's very creative. There are a number of organizations doing phenomenal work. Again, Right Now just did groundbreaking work in terms of doing undercover journalism that we've seen done in places like the United States and even countries like Spain, but it has never been done here before. The organization I work for, we had 94 people on payroll at our peak. We had thousands of conversations across the country. And so I would urge people to watch that video and recognize that even when you're cynical about politics, there are very important things that need to be done. And educating your fellow Canadians by engaging with them, by sharing the video that Right Now has already posted, and sharing the rest of the videos as they're released as well, is very, very important. There are things that happen that we cannot stop, but we can always ensure that these things don't happen without our protest. And I think this moment in particular is an opportunity for Canadians to share information, to share a video that will inform other people in their lives about what's actually going on, and gives them some very simple tasks to do, like signing up for a petition. And so Right Now is on all the legwork. They've given you all the very simple tasks that you need to do to make a difference in this moment. And I would urge everybody to make use of this moment, because they very rarely take place. And that's to Alyssa's credit.
And let's rattle off the nuts and bolts of that. So I was on a phone call this morning with a member of parliament who said he's already received hundreds of not personalized email, but automated emails, because Right Now, you guys launched a petition where people can go and sign. We also, with For My Canada, launched a petition that does automatically trigger an email to the Prime Minister, to Pierre Poilievre as the leader of the opposition, to members of the Justice Committee and members of the Health Committee. And I think they've already gotten 1,000 of those trigger automated emails. But this is one of the things that the member of parliament said this morning. He said, listen, it's getting noticed. Like, as a matter of fact, it's annoying. No, it's getting noticed. But it's not necessarily as impactful as when we get that personal phone call. Like when somebody who actually lives in my riding, who's going to vote for me or not vote for me, or maybe work for me or work against me in the next campaign, when that person shows effort, basically, this is what the member of parliament said: the more effort that a person takes on an issue that they care about, the more impact it will have on our leaders. So he was saying, these petitions are great. Like, obviously something is better than nothing, but if you really want to make an impact, pick up the phone, call your member of parliament, email your member of parliament, go to a community event where you can have that quick interaction with them. We always emphasize, be nice, be honoring, don't give them a reason to write pro-lifers off because of mannerisms. Be professional, be loving, be kind, be honoring, but be present. That was the feedback that we got this morning. Is that the type of feedback that you guys get as well? And Alyssa, drive to the action points. Is there anything I'm missing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that politicians could always make excuses as to why they're not going to do something. Oh, well, this petition isn't effective. Oh, well, I only got a phone call. Oh, well, I only got one person coming up to me. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I think those things are extremely important. And like Jonathan said, we have to protest every time. But I also think that regardless of whether it's 1,000 automated emails in your inbox or 1,000 phone calls, both should be equally regarded by politicians that this is an issue that Canadians care about, and so they should do something about it. On top of that, they can also get involved in the political process. That is always extremely effective, because where you don't super get FaceTime with politicians, or it's difficult to, whether you have to go to, a town hall or try and make an appointment to see them, when they're desperate for re-election, then they'll take all the help that they can get. And that's some very good FaceTime there. So yeah, all of these things that you mentioned, getting involved in the political process, all of these things are effective. And we just have to keep encouraging politicians to have a backbone, to have courage, to know that there are people on their side that will stand up for them, that will help them get reelected, and that this is an issue that people care about. And so to come together as a coalition to do something about it.
And also to drive to the point here of this video, you're not just talking about all abortions, though I know you're pro-life through and through. You're talking about late term abortions. To me, this feels very similar to the ruling that we just had at the Supreme Court, where they are minimizing the impacts of child porn. Late term abortion, this is something that most Canadians are going to agree on. So it will be really interesting to see if our leaders catch courage on this, given that it really possibly is a point where both the pro-life and the pro-choice movement can harmonize, where we're talking with reason, right? Final comments from both of you. Anything on the topic that you kind of want to get out there that you want to accent, or final words for our viewers? Jonathan, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I guess I'll end by just sort of emphasizing what Alyssa said there, and by what you said there, Fatine, which is that right now has made it as easy for the politicians as you can possibly expect the pro-life movement to make it, which is exposing a practice the majority of Canadians are unaware of, that when they find out about are horrified by, that even in the UK, which is as post-religious as Canada is, it still has the capacity to trigger horror, when they had a debate about similar abortions earlier this year. And so if you're not willing to fight on this message, if you are not willing to advocate when the public is with you, that there is I think, a very open question as to whether you're ever willing to advocate. Because if this isn't the time, if this isn't the issue, and if this isn't the video, then what actually would be? How could you possibly have an opportunity that's more in line with what the public thinks, that's less risky? And the last thing I would just mention, when it comes to pro-life politicians, one of the things that I often think is one of the things that annoys me the most, Fatine, I don't know if you notice this, but when you hear a pro-life politician say "you guys" in referencing the pro-life movement, my question always is, why is it that when you get elected, suddenly it's you guys? I thought that you were part of the pro-life movement as well. And if you're a pro-life member of parliament, this means that you believe what we believe, which is that late-term abortion results in the gruesome death of a preborn human being. And so we're not advocating for those babies all by ourselves. It should be you as well. And so we shouldn't be a lobby group desperately trying to convince pro-life politicians to care about this. If they believe what they say they believe, they should just care about this. They shouldn't need the kind of pushing and urging that we've been talking about, although sometimes it unfortunately does seem that that's necessary. I understand that there are political realities. We all understand that. Right Now was founded in part to respond to political realities that other groups had ignored. But on the other hand, the reality of what's going on in Canada was exposed by this video. And if they don't address it, I would say they're contributing to the cone of silence around what Canada's abortion industry does.
Thank you. Alyssa.
Yeah, I just I don't think you can put it better than what Jonathan just said. I completely agree. And I hope that, those listening do as well.
Okay. So where we're at right now. So again, recording this on Thursday, November the 13th. We'll see when we get it posted within short order here. But you've got 2 videos coming around the bends. You do have that petition. So people go to your website, which is
itstartsrightnow.ca.
It starts right now.ca. You can also swing by formycanada.com. And Jonathan, you're one of the sharpest pencils I know. Honestly, it's such a delight to chat with you. But you have written extensively about this topic. You mentioned the Canadian organization that you work for, Center for Bioethical Reform. Where can people find more of your writings and information about this topic?
Thebridgehead.ca.
Okay. That was easy. Awesome. So we're going to continue to march forth from this. I want to encourage all of our viewers here right now to take it seriously. Go watch that video if you haven't watched it yet. Do want to say this. It's you know, it's tastefully done in the sense that it is not graphic. It is pretty much all audio. You're just hearing the conversation. People's identities are concealed. Nobody's being outed in that regard. It's simply a recording of what actually happens in these types of meetings, in these types of intake sessions. And so do go and watch that video, share it with your friends, share it with your member of parliament, your elected officials, your MLA, provincially as well. We should be speaking to leaders about this issue. And do take that moment if you care, which I know many of you watching this, if you're still watching this at the half-hour mark, you care. Really take that moment to research who your elected official is. You can feel free to email admin@formycanada.ca if you have any questions about that, and take that time to call, to email, sign the petitions. There's no harm in that. It only takes a few seconds, but definitely take a moment to take that extra step. And so on that note, I want to say thank you so much, Alyssa. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for taking time today. And we'll be watching as these videos continue to drop.
Thanks so much, Faitine.
Thank you.